Hi, so I'm Ezekiel Mozo, and we were tasked to make a research or just pretty much just anything about Sir Rizal and what could possibly we could think of him, about whether he could be this or that, or he could be, I don't know, maybe gay, or maybe he's interested in something and so on. But I thought about something else that I've been seeing pretty much recently online, and that's people yelling out so much stuff about whether what is right or wrong, or what should stay or what should change. You know, those people who are making so much noise about conservatism and liberalism. These words that we normally hear out on the West, yet we don't really bring those topics up much now recently in the Philippines. Yet at the same time, once we do we actually think about them thoroughly? So I thought about bringing this topic up because why not? So like, I guess imagine, was there Rizal at TikTok? No, seriously though, imagine. So imagine Jose Rizal scrolling through political arguments online today. People canceling each other, people calling out everyone, either too woke or traditional. Twitter wars, people just canceling that ass out of nowhere and just telling you to stop, and then by the next day everyone just hates you. You know, debates and Facebook comments looking like battlefields by, you know, boomers. I mean, if you guys have seen recently, you know, the Sarah intelligence stuff. So my question would be like, would Sir Rizal actually be conservative or liberal? In the sense of what he's currently has been through on what we have discussed in the past few weeks. But that would mostly depend if he's gone through exactly what we've been through, whether he's too comfortable in his home, going through exactly the same things, exactly as a conservative would, then he would be conservative or liberal. But then again, he had a different mindset. This answer is not simple, because throughout our lesson, Rizal was just not one thing. He criticized the government, exposed corruption, challenged abusive systems. That already sounds very progressive. Inolawit ang here and el filibusterismo. He openly attacked social injustice, toxic abuse of power, and blind obedience. So that's the kind of stuff that, you know, today would probably trend online with hashtags and think pieces. Like, imagine Jose Rizal just posting. Maybe the problem isn't people speaking up. Maybe it's the system they're speaking against. And system alone just not limit itself on the government. It's pretty much goes the same way in just us humans, people living in the society as well. The way we grew up with the way how people of those from the previous generations has built the society, it very much contributes to it all. So would bro either get praised for it or just get cancelled on the social media within 5 minutes? But at the same time, Rizal also believed in discipline, education, and gradual reform. He didn't fully support violent revolutions the way others did. He believed the Philippines needed preparation and knowledge and unity first. Pretty much as to why the Americans kind of just proclaimed him as a national hero. Because he wasn't that kind of like booga booga and like kill people, because that's how you get them. But that's where things kind of get complicated, because in today's world, some people would call that conservative. If you want to change, not reckless destruction. It's kind of like when people online argue whether protesting should stay peaceful or aggressive when nothing changes. If you guys remember the EDSA Revolution protest thingy, just a few months ago. There's a lot of things going on around there, but I don't even know what's real or not. But it's just not talk about that. Are we building society or just burning it down? And honestly, that question still exists today. You can even see like viral forms of videos online. There are influencers today who speak up against corruption, inequality, or toxic systems. So Rizal would probably respect that courage. But then again, there are people who spread misinformation. And not just people who spread misinformation willingly. There are those who actually just deadass do not know the difference between misinformation and not, which would, result for people out there just going for the great outrage for cloud, making a cloud for basically rage baiting people and attack others without understanding the issue completely. So Rizal, being heavily focused on education and critical thinking, would probably hate that. But then again, it's just people who hate. It's just people who hate researching about this kind of things that makes it really hard for them to know whether that's right or wrong. So, bro really just dedicated his life to knowledge, and people today repost things after reading one sentence, even though it's completely fake. He'd lose his mind. But we can't do anything about it because it's just people. You hear one thing that sounds really cool, even though it's completely fake and utterly just deadass, vile, disgusting cattle. Then just fake. How could you not? He'd lose his mind. So another thing that makes Rizal hard to label is this. So like, he was modern for this time. He was still shaped by the values of Sarah. He supported women being educated and respected, which was incredibly progressive back then, especially through his letter to the woman of Malolos. If you remember my discussion back then, last 2 weeks ago, the Greek women who he tried to took inspiration from, so that he could teach, not he, but rather the woman, the mothers could teach their children, not go against unconsciously against the Filipino themselves. So depending on what part of Rizal you focus on, different groups today would probably try to claim him as one of them. Liberals might point out to how he challenged oppression and pushed for social change. Hence what I just said earlier. Conservatives might point out his discipline, patriotism, and belief in reform through education instead of chaos. But maybe the bigger point is this. Jose Rizal existed before today's political labels. Even existed way before we know them now. Maybe trying to force him into one category misses the entire point of who he was. Because Jose Rizal wasn't really interested in fitting into one teams. He kind of was interested in fixing the society. And that doesn't mean sticking in one idea. That would mean going left and right, to be honest. So long as society would be fixed in that process, if you get what I mean. And that is why maybe he could still be relevant today. I mean, we are still discussing him. We are required by law to discuss him, not just because of how he was considered a national hero, or rather the claim, but rather the things he has done that helped us contribute to how the patriotism of us Filipinos turned out to be. In a generation where everyone is pressured to immediately pick a side, Rizal reminds us that intelligence sometimes means questioning both sides. Not because you're neutral, but you're thinking. Get it? You're thinking. Because not everyone thinks, apparently. You just, see whatever it is that you see in the internet, website, social media, but do you know actually what you're yapping about? I mean, and probably not as well, but also at the same time, at least I kind of looked it up, and I'm kind of basing it off of that hypothesis. So at least I have my own source for that. But generally, do you think Jose Rizal would be conservative or liberal? Maybe both. Or simply maybe he was just Jose Rizal. Was Jose Rizal because he was Jose Rizal? Okay, I'm gonna stop. But pretty much that would be the point of this trailer. If you wanna see more of this about my yapping, you're gonna see more of my stuff in the research paper. Probably not gonna be the best out there, but I will try to make it as thoroughly entertaining, not entertaining, but rather informative. But yeah, that's about it. What do you think?